Let's talk about Viola Davis because she is on the cover of the latest issue of Vanity Fair, and this is a history-making cover, y'all. The cover was shot by Calmezzi. It's actually the first time in the magazine's history that the cover was shot by a black photographer. And can we just like embrace how beautiful this is? First of all, like what an amazing photograph this is.
Beautiful. I mean, from the clothing to the hair, the afro, to even that statement, my entire life has been a protest, right there
Mm,
on the cover. It's stunning. Just to put some context behind the history behind this cover, the first Vanity Fair magazine appeared in 1859 and it was reintroduced by Condé Nast in 1914. So
yeah.
this is a 160-year history, and this is the first time a black person has been a photographer when it comes to shooting the cover. What's interesting is that Dario didn't know that he was the first black photographer to shoot the cover of Vanity Fair while he was shooting it, but he had suspicion. And he ended up asking one of the editors who did the digging, and come to find out that he is making history.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing too because the concept for this shot in particular, he revealed, is actually a recreation of slave portraits from the 1800s. So,
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
there's a history there and it's
Yeah.
calculated and it's kind of wild to think, first of all, it took this long for there to be a black photographer shooting the cover of such an esteemed magazine,
Right.
but it's also, it's kind of a fairy tale ending in a way, because also they have Viola Davis as that cover star
Mhm.
for this photographer, and she of course has gone through so much adversity in her life, and she has been so outspoken on just the racial and social inequalities in Hollywood, in the business, and it's something she talked about inside the magazine too. This is not the first time she's talked about this, but she explained her regret over starring in The Help. Of course, she was nominated for an Oscar for a performance in this movie, but she said inside, quote, "There's a part of me that feels like I betrayed myself and my
Mhm.
people." And she goes on to say it's because it wasn't the film, she says, wasn't made for the people it's about, but rather it was catering to the white audience. Which
Mm.
it's hard to read that because and she even said this in the article, but she had such an amazing experience shooting that with that wonderful cast, and she says there's not anyone who's not entertained by that movie. But when she took a step back in hindsight and in retrospect, she realized this was not catering to my community, to the audience
Right.
that I'm trying to represent. And so that must be hard, and you can tell, for her to reconcile with.
For sure. And she mentioned that, I mean, this was a story about maids in the 1960s, taking care of white families and white
Mhm.
children in 1963 specifically. But we didn't even really get their perspective in this film about how that feels to have to do that. We didn't really see their humanity as much. And she said that she really recognized that afterwards. Now, going into the film, she just was an actor just trying to make it. So
Mhm.
that was her excuse for, not even necessarily her excuse, but that was her reason for saying yes to the film. But I think that this is perfect timing. Of course, The Help re-entered the national conversation in a big way in June when it started trending on Netflix once again after the George Floyd protests
Mhm.
and everything that was happening with the Black Lives Matter movement. So I think it's a perfect conversation to have, and people in
Yeah.
the film also speaking out about it. Bryce Dallas Howard, who is a star in the film, told people not to watch it as well. So we're just hearing this again and again and again. And I think from this point forward, actors and actresses are going to take more of a responsibility when it comes to the roles they take on. It's not no longer just an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's what's the message you're sending out into this world, and how are you playing a part in systemic racism?
And that's a responsibility that Viola Davis specifically does not take lightly because, as she mentioned in her feature in Vanity Fair, it's like not only has her entire life been a protest in her, existence, but also she's saying that her production company is a form of protest. The roles that she chooses now is a form of protest because she is going to, do her part to amplify Black creatives. and Black voices,
Mhm.
with the movies that and projects that she wants to greenlight through her production company. And so, I mean, Viola has always been a trailblazer, and we saw it when that resurfaced interview happened just a couple weeks ago, where she was talking about her worth in Hollywood, and she called
Mhm.
out those Hollywood executives. It's like, if you think I'm the quote unquote Black Meryl Streep, then pay me that. Pay me what I'm worth.
Right.
So I feel like you're right. As much as she probably regrets the help, it's something that she's gonna use as her fuel to motivate
Right.
her and all the decisions that she makes moving forward.
Mhm. We have to
Yeah,
learn from somewhere, you know?
exactly.